Welcome to another edition of Don Hammond's Arlington Weekly News. Once again, I'm doing a variety of different character voices until someone complains. Here's the lineup for this week. The news, of course, Community Bulletin Board, and 55 Plus News, and a summary of the most recent town hall meeting. Finally, there's a short piece called What's Wrong with This Picture? That's the show. Now here's the social media reminder. You can watch us on YouTube at Arlington Weekly News and the number 1, also on Facebook, and you can listen on the radio at WERA 96.7 FM. Now, on to the news.
As of Sunday evening, July 26th, reports show the number of confirmed COVID-19 cases in Arlington had exceeded 2,800. Next up, the Arlington Convention and Visitors Service will receive $10,000 from the Virginia Tourism Corporation Destination Marketing Organization Wanderlove Recovery Grant Program. In addition to supporting Virginia's Wanderlove campaign by promoting scenic drives, hiking, parks, and neighborhood experiences in Arlington, ACVS will commission a photography and video shoot to expand its collection of images reflecting the county's cultural diversity. Elsewhere, the Arlington County Board has approved WETA's plan to expand its Shirlington headquarters and an incentive grant to keep the public television station in Arlington for at least another 5 years. WETA, the nonprofit local PBS station, will add a 4-story studio and office building to its existing 6-story headquarters at 3939 Campbell Avenue, which had opened in 1989. The addition, with its state-of-the-art television studio, will be built in a private courtyard between the existing building and WETA's above-grade parking garage, connecting the two existing structures. A large media screen will be installed at the building's ground level on South Quincy Street. The board approved a $2.27 million economic development incentive grant for WETA. Under the grant agreement, WETA is committed to retain its 292 jobs and more than 88,000 square feet of occupied commercial space in Shirlington for at least 15 years, and to invest at least $15 million in constructing the new studio. The grant is performance-based, with WETA eligible to receive up to $112,500 annually over 15 years if it meets the jobs and base facility targets. WETA must repay the grant if it does not reach its performance targets. We do not yet know the specifics of what those performance targets are. County staff estimates that the 15-year net tax benefit for the county will be approximately $4.8 million. The board also approved the purchase, for a price of $8 million, of WETA's 27th Street South studio and a leaseback agreement that will allow WETA to lease the studio for up to 5 years. WETA was born in Arlington, said Arlington County Board Chair Libby Garvey. So, we would point out, was Arlington Independent Media. Finally in the news, Arlington Police Chief Murray J. Farr announced that he would retire on September 4th after serving the Arlington County Police Department for 30 years. Chief Farr had provided leadership as Arlington's Chief of Police since May of 2015. In addition to his role as Chief of Police, he served in assignments as Deputy Chief of Police for Systems Management, Operations, and Criminal Investigations. He also served as Arlington County Acting Deputy County Manager. He has also been an active member of the Metropolitan Washington Council of Governments, serving as the chair of the Police Chief Committee. Next up, we have Community Bulletin Board, or CBB.
Welcome to CBB. Our first item is about women in the arts. Join a docent from the National Museum of Women in the Arts. They'll feature selections from the collection that gives participants an overview of the contributions of women artists from the 16th century all the way up to the current day. The collections highlight painting, sculpture, photography, and video by artists including Louise Bourgeois, Mary Cassatt, Judy Chicago, Frida Kahlo, Shirin Neshat, Faith Ringgold, Pipilati Rist, Amy Sherald, and Elizabeth Louise Vigée-Lebrun. Registration is required. Registrants will be sent the Zoom meeting information by email before the event. That's on Wednesday, August 12th from 6:30 to 8 o'clock p.m. Just go to https://arlingtonva.libcal/event/5608418. Now here's something for the little kids. Your favorite librarians will be reading, singing, and rhyming with you. They want you to join them for story time on the library's Facebook page. If you miss one, don't worry. The story time will be available to watch for 2 weeks. A new story time will be posted every Monday and Wednesday by noon. The next one will be on Wednesday, August 5th from 12 noon to 12:30 p.m. For more information, call 703-228-5993. Meanwhile, here's one for the parents of preschool kids. Join early childhood staff for an hour of fun in the sun on Thursday, August 13th from 10 o'clock to 11 o'clock a.m. at Highview Park. The preschool playdates are designed for you and your 2 to 5-year-old. Come sing songs, read stories, play movement games, and enjoy a make-or-take art project. There will be a new engaging theme every week. This program requires a parent or guardian to register along with the participating child. Oh yes, and please bring a blanket. Again, that's Thursday, August 13th from 10 o'clock to 11 o'clock a.m. at Highview Park, 1945 North Dinwiddie Street. Finally, grown-ups can join Natasha Alfonso Ahmed, Principal Planner and Planley Highway Project Manager, with the Arlington County Department of Community Planning, Housing, and Development. You can learn about the planning process for future development of the Lee Highway Corridor. You'll also have opportunities to provide your own input. That is also on Thursday, August 13th, but from 1:30 to 2:30 p.m. RSVP to Sheila Butoff to receive a meeting link before the program. You can email her at sbudoff@arlingtonva.us. And now it's time for 55 Plus News.
Howdy. Here's a chance to join Elaine F., author of The Painted Screens of Baltimore, an Urban Reveal, to discuss some of the amazing early 20th century folk art right next door in Baltimore, Maryland. That's what it says here. She might think it's next door to Arlington, but I'd hate to walk over there to borrow a cup of sugar. Anyway, the announcement says, enjoy a lively discussion and learn more about these immigrants from working-class neighborhoods who created this movement. I guess it's better than J.B.G. Smith shipping painted bicycles down from Pennsylvania. That's on Thursday, August 6th from 11 o'clock a.m. to 12 noon. The cost is free, and you can contact Charlika Ashton to get hooked up. She's still at sashton@arlingtonva.us. Meanwhile, until further notice, the Arlington 55 Plus Book Club will meet via Zoom. For the Zoom meeting information, register for the group's email list. The web address is too darn long to read, so just start at the library website and look for the description. Registrants will be sent the Zoom meeting information by email 1 day before the meeting. They welcome new members to join them in reading and discussing current literary fiction, historical fiction, and some nonfiction titles. This is a volunteer-run group. The library will not distribute login information to the group on Zoom. Instead, the volunteer who leads the group will email the link to the Zoom meeting. That's on Friday, August 7th from 12 noon to 1 p.m. Next up, Carl Gold will discuss and perform a few of the many songs written by America's Nobel laureate Bob Dylan. That's on Tuesday, August 11th from 2 o'clock to 3 o'clock p.m. The cost is free. RSVP to Sheila Butoff to receive a meeting link for the program, and you can email her at sbudoff@arlingtonva.us. Now, finally, here's something else to watch out for. Join with MPO Lennon of the Arlington County Police Department to learn more about COVID-19 scams, elder fraud, and general financial scams. That's on Thursday, August 13th from 1 o'clock to 2 o'clock p.m. The cost is free, and that's no scam. You can RSVP to Charlika Ashton for this Zoom program. In case you missed it earlier, you can reach her at sashton@arlingtonva.us. Now it's time for another report about Arlington's most recent town hall meeting.
The Arlington County Board held another virtual town hall meeting on Friday, July 24th at 12:30 p.m. Participants included Christian Dorsey, Libby Garvey, Dr. Ruben Varghese, Dr. Aaron Miller, Mark Schwartz, and Jim Schwartz. There were some other people in attendance, but they didn't do any talking. I'm just going to summarize the high points because so many of the issues are pretty much the same as they've been. We've been in Phase 3 for 3 weeks. There was an uptick in positivity rates elsewhere, but things are fairly steady in Arlington at around 5%. 26,000 tests have been administered in Arlington so far. Viewers were directed to a special COVID web page at arlingtonva.us/COVID-19 as being the best source for the latest information. And they went ahead and actually shared the screens so that viewers could become acquainted. There was a screen that gave data by zip code, with high concentrations noted in certain areas. Another screen showed demographic breakdowns. There were breakdowns by age, also race, and ethnicity. They had another page that seemed to be a what to do page. What followed was some observations about the case rate. Libby Garvey noted that a lot of people were using the hotline and that reports of problems are good to have. She is trying hard to stay in Phase 3. In fact, she is personally staying in Phase 2 and encourages everyone else to be extra vigilant. Masks are being distributed through various channels. Viewers were encouraged to look for "We Are Covered" signs at local establishments. Temporary outdoor seating arrangements are up to 99 applications, of which 71 have been approved. Rent assistance is ongoing. I have to wonder why the landlords require the assistance, since those are the people to whom the money ends up going. They say to call 703-228-1300 if you need help with your rent or other household expenses. There was a message of thanks to the PTA and Meals on Wheels and other organizations for stepping up. Also mentioned was the Cooperative for a Hunger-Free Arlington, who have been coordinating various helps. Some 24,400 meals and groceries have been provided. There was an announcement that Arlington Public Schools will open virtually in the fall. Meanwhile, the county is trying to make sure that there is good online access for students. A question came up as to whether the county board was pushing back on the reopening schedule from the governor, and the answer was yes, and they did get a delay earlier, and they are now monitoring the situation. Dr. Ruben Varghese said that community spread is still going on. They are not yet able to track all of the case origins. Arlington is at a plateau. The metrics overall have declined for Northern Virginia, but there are increases elsewhere in the state. Hospitalizations over 14 days are roughly steady in Northern Virginia, but there are increases elsewhere in the rest of Virginia. Testing is up, but this is a metric that is somewhat influenced by human behavior. Just having the tests available does not necessarily mean that everyone will show up to get the tests. Hospital bed capacity is still within the regular limits. They have not had to go to their surge capacity so far. One question came up about how long it takes for test results to come back. This is hard to answer because tests are sent away to get results, and the higher the volume, possibly throughout the country, the slower the results. They are trying to expedite results because they believe that 10 days is really too long for purposes of contact tracing or quarantine. It was noted that the lack of a national strategy is still an obstacle. Community spread is defined as the inability to determine the sources of specific infections. Arlington can't restrict travel, so they can't declare victory at any point. The goal is 0, but they're nowhere near there. In fact, right now they're not even declining. There was a question about the contact tracers. Has there been any resistance from subjects of interviews? Not as such, although if a subject is too sick, they may not be able to answer, but that's rare. The question comes up when someone has been within 6 feet for 15 minutes within an 8-hour period of an infected person. Overall, the cooperation has been good. A different question came up about the best time to get a flu shot. It turns out that the normal time is the end of September or the start of October, but the shots must be available. That's not yet known. Apart from that, parents should still get their school children vaccinated. Jim Schwartz was asked about compliance issues. He said the big problem is that too many people are not wearing face coverings, and they must also remember to maintain that 6-foot distance all around them, to the front, to the back, and to either side. It was noted that there were people gathering at night on sidewalks outside of clubs, restaurants, and bars. The restaurant owners are cooperating, the customers not so much so. Enforcement tools are intentionally being limited. They're seeking voluntary cooperation. One problem is a little bit of vagueness as to what is defined as congregating in the governor's orders. The problem is not limited to just bars and restaurants. There are also things like worship places and other indoor activities. Group singing in choirs. Loud talking increases the droplet spread. These are all things that have to be considered. A question came up as to whether face coverings when leaving home can be mandated. The practical answer is, even if they were, it would be unenforceable in most situations. One observation that Christian Dorsey shared was the problem of runners running through outdoor seating areas and exposing others as they passed. It was also noted that the problem seemed to increase after 9 o'clock in the evening and where young people like to gather and drink. There was a bit of a warning. The police and other organizations will be stepping up the monitoring. There's a number to call to report a problem, 703-228-7999, and the response is multilingual. A question came up as to whether or not the data is being shared with the schools, and the answer is a resounding yes. However, once they have the data, the schools make their own decisions. According to Mark Schwartz, the schools are trying to tally the needs of parents for child care. Virginia State has decided to make it easier for schools to set up accommodations, but there are decisions still to be made. Available space is only one factor. The spaces have to be staffed with teachers or monitors. It was noted that Arlington is still in tough budget times, but the Arlington public school needs are at, and I quote here, the top of mind. There is still coordination with Maryland, D.C., and other Virginia communities. There's also a kind of daily rhythm to the conversations which start at 8 o'clock a.m. Dr. Aaron Miller deals with emergency managers. He said that there are weekly and bi-weekly meetings where information is shared. A question came up about barber shops and car washes, specifically car wash services that provide cleaning inside of the car. The answer was that case investigations, voluntary reporting, and contact tracing can help identify those situations, but that honesty is a big determining factor. The car wash decision is pretty much business by business, depending on people's risk thresholds. There was a caution regarding service calls for people visiting the house to work on air conditioning or other situations. They do say that the responses within the business community have been quite good. A question came up about how faith organizations can help, and the answer was the best thing they can do is facilitate communication with underserved communities. The PTAs are also good, especially when some of the people they deal with are not skilled at using online tools. A question about multifamily communities, densely housed populations, and places such as crowded halls, mail rooms, and laundry rooms. It's hard to maintain social distance in a narrow hallway. The best answer was for people to be aware of their surroundings, monitor their own behaviors, and overcome their own habits. Remember that some people have health restrictions that preclude them wearing face coverings, so be nice. Last item was about yard waste collections. Unfortunately, they are not yet available for home pickup, but the 2 drop-off locations remain. It is believed that it will be 30 to 60 days before a solution arrives. They did mention a possible $8 credit for the diminished service. Also, there was a plug for the census. It's open till October. The response rate is a disappointing 72%. It needs to be higher. Non-compliance or non-responsiveness loses money for the community, and it also puts census workers at risk by forcing them to go door to door. The next meeting will be on August the 7th with Katie Crystal and Matt DeFerrante. This meeting ended at 1:40 p.m. This next piece is called What's Wrong with This Picture? A picture arrived in an email from Arlington's Department of Parks and Recreation. It's a nice picture of some kids playing an active game on opposite sides of a table. The picture shows that they're wearing masks, and that's good, but the table is only about 5 feet wide, and the one kid is leaning most of the way across, so that his face is only about 3 feet away from the other kid's face. According to registered nurse Shanina Knighton, Ph.D., a mask on its own isn't sufficient because it doesn't provide 100% protection. People have this perception that because they have a mask on, droplets can't travel through the mask, but they can. The fact that you can breathe through it tells you that something can come in through that barrier, and COVID droplets are small enough so that they would still be able to travel through the mask. So there you have it. It's not masks or social distancing, it's masks and social distancing. And that concludes this week's show. We will be back next week with more news from Arlington, along with more on-the-ground observations. Meanwhile, be careful, be safe, and be well.